At midnight, the town had finished pretending not to see Auden Finch. The last bus had coughed out of the depot 2 hours before, with 3 passengers and a driver who kept his eyes on the mirror until Auden stood up from the bench. The depot lights clicked into their after-hours dimness. A woman in a red quilted coat lifted her purse from the seat beside her, as if his hunger might crawl into it. The night clerk, who had allowed him to sit through the bitter part of the evening because sleet had sealed the sidewalks in silver, came from behind the counter with his keys already ringed around one finger. "You can't stay in here," the clerk said, not cruelly enough to give Auden an enemy, and not kindly enough to give him anything else. Auden had learned that most people used that tone when they wanted their hands clean. He stepped outside with the strap of his canvas bag, cutting across his shoulder, and the cold entering every seam of his coat. The coat had been brown once. Grease had made the cuffs stiff. His left shoe had cardboard under the insole, where the sole had begun to open near the toe. He carried no blanket because a man with a badge had taken the rolled one from him behind the bakery loading door that afternoon and called it sanitation. He carried a tin spoon, half a pencil, a pair of socks too damp to wear, a hardware store flyer folded into the bottom of the bag, and a paperback with no front cover that he kept because paper had more uses than words. The depot clock said 11:37. By midnight, the sleet stopped. That made the cold worse. The clouds split apart over Glaive Junction and revealed a sky so hard and clear that every rooftop seemed nailed to it. The streets shone. Water in the gutters stiffened. A delivery truck hissed past and sprayed gray slush over Auden's pant leg. He did not shout. Shouting took heat and brought attention. He moved west because west had warehouses, and warehouses sometimes had awnings, loose pallets, warm exhaust, or a guard who slept after one. Glaive Junction sat where 3 rail lines had once disagreed about where money should go. 2 still ran freight on the lower grade beyond the river. 1, the old switchback line to Harrow Pass, had been abandoned before Auden was born. People used its name the way they used the names of dead relatives, with embarrassment, fondness, and no intention of bringing them back. The switchback had climbed from the factories through black spruce and limestone cuts to the pass where logging camps and quarries had fed the valley. After a slide tore out the middle trestle, the company removed the useful steel, left the splintered ties, and let alder grow up through the gauge. Auden knew this because abandoned rail grades were good for walking. They had no porch lights. They had fewer questions. They held the town without belonging to it. He passed the shuttered canning plant, the wire yard, the gravel office with its flag frozen tight to the pole. At the end of Brace Street, where the pavement ended in a scatter of cinders and plowed snow, the broken tracks rose out of weeds and vanished behind a line of spruce. They did not look like a path at night. They looked like something the ground had tried to swallow and failed to finish. Auden followed them anyway. The rails were gone in some places, left in others, severed at odd angles where acetylene had cut them years ago. Moonlight collected in the cuts. Each tie held a cap of ice, and the black spaces between them were deep enough to catch an ankle. He walked beside the grade when he could, and on the center when brush forced him there. The town dropped behind him after 10 minutes. Its sounds thinned to a distant engine brake, a dog too cold to keep barking, a siren that could have belonged to any trouble except his. The old switchback bent into the trees. The air changed there. It smelled of frozen bark, limestone, and the faint mineral damp that came out of rock even in hard cold. Auden kept his hands under his armpits and leaned forward, not from hope, but from the simple agreement he had made with his body. Keep moving or lie down and lose. The moon was bright enough to show the ballast as pale chips beneath the ice. It was also bright enough to show where the tracks had broken. The first break was clean. 2 lengths of rail ended at a gap where a washout had eaten the grade from below. Snow bridged part of it, smooth as a covered bed. Auden stopped at the edge. under the snow, was open blackness. He kicked a pebble in and waited. It clicked once, then again, then disappeared into a small, dry depth. He backed away, skirted the gap through brush, and climbed onto the grade beyond. The second break was stranger. The rails did not simply end. They bent downward together, as if a huge hand had pressed them into the earth while they were warm. The ties around them were cracked. A rusted switch stand leaned nearby without a lantern top, its target plate holed and rimmed with ice. The old line forked there. One spur climbed toward the pass. The other, half hidden by brush and drifted snow, ran along the face of a limestone, cut toward a place Auden had never been. He knew enough not to trust a spur at night. Spurs went to mills, bunkers, pits, locked gates, places with dogs. But this spur had broken rail that caught moonlight like a lifted edge of a blade, and beyond it, he saw something he had not seen anywhere else along the line. A thread of vapor rising from the ground. It was not smoke. It was too low, too pale, appearing only when the moon touched it. It came from between two crooked ties and vanished in the windless cold. Auden stood still. Warmth meant people. People meant danger. But warmth meant not freezing. And hunger had made the arithmetic in him simpler than pride. He stepped toward it. The wood beneath his foot made a sound unlike the crack of frozen timber. It gave a hollow clack, a note with space under it. Auden shifted back. The clack faded into the ground. Then someone below him called, "Don't put weight on the next tie." Auden did not breathe. The voice had not come from the trees or the cut wall. It came from under the track, up through the gaps in the frozen wood, thin and scraped by distance. It was a woman's voice, or an older girl's, roughened by cold and effort. "Boy," it called again. "I can hear you. Step back from the white tie." Auden stepped back so fast his heel slid. He caught the leaning switch stand and felt rust flake under his palm. For one wild second, he thought the cold had spoken in a human shape because he had gone too long without sleep. Then the voice coughed from below, and the cough echoed inside boards. "I'm not coming down there," Auden said, before he knew he would speak. "No one asked you to fall," the voice answered. "Look for the iron ring at the switch base, under the snow. Use your foot first." Auden stared at the switch stand. Its base was a square of iron bolted to rotten timbers. Snow had drifted around it. He did not move. "Are you hurt?" the voice called. The question irritated him because it was the kind people asked when they wanted a story before deciding whether to help. He nearly turned away. He could still see the town glow through branches. He could still find a loading dock. A voice under broken tracks at midnight was not a shelter. It was exactly the sort of trouble a boy without a bed should refuse. A faint metallic ping sounded below, then another. The voice said, "Softer. I am. My leg's caught, and the cold's coming through the lower door. If I lose the line before morning, the shelf will drop. There's a ring. You don't have to trust me. Trust the fact that I told you where not to step." Auden looked at the white tie. It was not white from snow. Someone had painted it years ago, and the paint remained in scales under the frost. The next tie beyond it bowed slightly toward the ground. Between the ties, the vapor rose again. He scraped snow with the edge of his shoe. Ice peeled up in brittle flakes. Under it, beside the switch base, his toe struck something round. He crouched and brushed with his sleeve until his fingers found a recessed iron ring set into a square trap the size of a flour sack. The ring was so cold it burned. It would not lift at first. He pulled with both hands and felt his shoulder blades grind against the thin cloth of his coat. "Pin on the north side," the voice called. Auden felt along the edge and found a sliding latch hidden under ice. He worked it with his spoon because his fingers had gone numb. The spoon bent, but the latch shifted. The iron ring lifted half an inch with a groan that ran through the ties. Warm, stale air touched his face. Under the trap was a black rectangle and a ladder made of iron staples set into the side of a narrow shaft. The air rising from it smelled of old oil, stone dust, cold ashes, and something sharp like frozen apples. Auden lay flat and peered down. A small light glowed far below, not steady but trembling, as if held in a hand. A face tilted up into it from a depth of perhaps 12 feet. He saw a wool cap, gray hair pushed under it, a cheek smeared dark, and one eye narrowed against the draft. "Ladder's sound for the first 8 rungs," the woman said. "9th is split. Step past it to the wall bracket. Close the hatch after you if you can. The wind steals heat faster than thieves steal copper." Auden almost laughed, because thieves stealing copper sounded more normal than any of this. "What is this place?" he asked. "Old weather shelf," she said. "Under the Harrow switchback. My name is Maura Kell. I've been calling into a dead rail for an hour, and you're the first thing on 2 feet to answer." Auden looked back at the town glow. The depot would be locked. The loading docks might have cameras. The cold had already entered the cardboard under his shoe. He looked down into the shaft again. "I'm Auden," he said, though he had not meant to give a name. "Then climb carefully, Auden. Carefully is not slowly. Carefully means you arrive useful." Auden lowered himself through the hatch because the cold above had become less believable than the voice below. The ladder rungs were narrow and wet with condensation that froze at the upper lip of the shaft. He kept his chest against the stone, skipping the 9th rung after pressing it with his boot and feeling it sag. The hatch above resisted when he reached for the underside. He had to hook one foot around a rung and haul it down by the ring until it dropped with a heavy cough. Darkness closed over him. The square of moonlight became a line, then nothing. Below the hatch, the shaft widened into a low chamber cut into the limestone beneath the old track. Auden climbed down the last rungs and stepped onto planks laid over stone. The planks were dry in some places and slick in others. A candle stood inside a coffee tin on a shelf, its flame beaten thin by a draft that came through a gap in a lower door. The chamber walls were not rough like a cave. They had tool marks in them, parallel bites from chisels, old drill scars, hand-smoothed edges where people had passed for years. Maura Kell sat on the floor with her back against a beam. She was not old the way Auden had first thought. The gray in her hair came in 2 sharp streaks from her temples. Her face was lined more by weather than age. She wore a canvas coat, patched at the elbows, and a black wool skirt over work pants. Her right leg was free. Her left was trapped below the knee under the edge of a fallen timber and a web of iron rods that led into the wall. Beside her was a hand lamp with a cracked glass chimney, a short crowbar, and a metal speaking cone attached to a pipe that disappeared upward toward the rails. The pipe was why her voice had sounded close and far at the same time. "You're thin," she said. "You're trapped," Auden said. "That's more urgent." She nodded toward the timber. "I can feel my foot, so don't panic. Panic makes people break things they need." "I wasn't panicking." "Good. Then you can help me get this brace off without bringing the shelf down." Auden crouched a few feet away and tried to understand what he was seeing. The chamber was part room, part machine. 3 beams crossed the low ceiling. Iron rods ran through guides along the wall. A chain hung through a slot and vanished into darkness below. Against the far side stood a wooden cabinet with stenciled words, so faded he could only make out, "Watch, cold, and below." Hooks held tools, a file, a hammer, 2 wrenches, a saw with missing teeth, and a wooden mallet. A row of glass tubes, each filled with colored liquid, leaned in a rack. On the floor, copper gutters carried trickles of meltwater into covered channels. "What is a weather shelf?" Auden asked. Mora pressed her hand against the fallen timber and listened before answering, as if the wood might object. Not the official name. The official name was Harrow Subgrade Thermal and Snow Relief Station No. 2. No one said that unless they wanted to be left alone. The switchback crossed this shoulder of the mountain above a frost pocket. The rail looked solid every summer and tried to lift itself apart every winter. Men died before they learned the mountain was hollow enough to move air under the track. So they built a shelf in the rock, put the rails on floating sills, warmed the joints when they could, opened vents when they had to, and watched the snow load from beneath. The line's abandoned. Mostly. Mora looked toward the lower door. It rattled once in the draft. The track is dead. The shelf is not. There's a county plow road under the grade now, and a water pipe strapped to the old trestle footings. They think the abandoned railbed is just a scar above them. If the shelf drops, it takes the pipe and half the cut with it. It won't ask whether anyone remembers its name. Auden did not understand all of it, but he understood enough. Things that looked dead still had weight. People forgot a thing and still stood on it. "What happened?" he asked. "I came to close the east chill door before the temperature fell. Somebody pulled 3 retaining pins out of the guide rack." She touched the iron rods above her leg. "The lower brace slipped. I got careless because I was angry." "Somebody. Scrappers, maybe. Kids, maybe. Men with a truck who think old iron belongs to whoever can carry it. I heard them before I fell. They heard me after, and ran." Auden thought of the men he had seen behind the feed store that afternoon. 2 shapes loading wire mesh under a tarp, one of them laughing at a dog that kept whining. But he did not say so. Knowledge could make a person responsible. He had enough responsibility keeping himself from freezing. Mora studied him without softening her gaze. "I need the brace lifted just enough to slide the wedge out. Not upward by force. Force will bend the rod rack, and then the sill above settles. There's a jack in the cabinet. Small bottle jack. Blue handle. You know how to use one?" Auden had once slept behind a tire shop for 5 nights because the exhaust fan blew warm air until 2 in the morning. He had watched men change wheels. He nodded. "Then get it. And take those canvas pads from the nail. Put them between jack and wood. Metal on frozen timber slips." The cabinet door stuck until he kicked the bottom. It opened with a sigh of old dust. Inside were shelves labeled in black paint. Wedges, candles, dry cloth, isosalt, pins, line twine. The labels were neat, not decorative, painted by someone who expected strangers to need them. The jack sat low on the bottom shelf, heavier than it looked. Auden carried it in both arms and set it near Mora's leg. "Not there," she said. "Feel the floor. Stone under plank. Hollow under plank." Auden knocked with his knuckles. One section thudded, another rang. He moved the jack to the thudding place. "Good," Mora said. "You listen with your hands." No one had ever made that sound like a skill. He slid the canvas pads into place, set the jack, and pumped the blue handle. The jack rose with a hydraulic grunt. The fallen timber lifted a fraction. Mora shut her eyes but did not cry out. "Stop," she said. Auden stopped. The rods in the wall clicked softly, one after another, like teeth touched by a tongue. "Too much?" he asked. "Enough. Pull the short wedge near my boot. Not the long one. The short one. If it doesn't come, tap it toward me, not away." The short wedge was dark oak, slick with old oil and new frost. Auden gripped it and pulled. It did not move. He tapped with the mallet. On the 3rd tap, it gave half an inch. Mora's mouth tightened. He pulled again. The wedge came free, and the timber shifted with a deep wooden complaint. Now the iron shoe. Maura pointed to a curved plate under the rod rack. "Slide it back into its saddle." Auden lay on his stomach. The floor smelled of stone and old lamp smoke. He shoved the plate with both hands. It resisted. He set one shoulder against it and pushed until something in the wall clanged. The plate settled into a notch. "Lower the jack a breath," Maura said. He turned the screw. The jack eased down. The timber came with it, no longer on her leg but back into line with the brace. Maura dragged her knee free and made one low sound, more anger than pain. Auden reached toward her, then stopped because he did not know if touching would be allowed. She saw the motion. "Help me sit higher." He took her under one arm and pulled. She was lighter than the force in her voice. Her boot dragged on the planks. She leaned against the beam and breathed through her teeth. "Check the lower door," she said. "You need a doctor." "I need the lower door shut before the sill line freezes open. Then I can need a doctor." Auden stared at her. "You're joking." "I don't joke when I'm pinned," she pointed. "Door first, doctor after. There's a wool wrap in the cabinet for my leg. Bring that too. And don't step on the brass cover. It hides a sump." Auden looked at the floor. The brass cover was nearly invisible under grime. He stepped over it and went to the lower door. It was not a door like a house door. It was a square iron plate set into an opening at floor level, hinged at the top and held by a chain. Cold air came through it in a white stream that moved along the planks and curled around his ankles. Beyond it was a dark chute, slanting downward. Somewhere in that chute, wind scraped over ice. A lever beside the door was marked East Chill. Another below it was marked Tempering. Both were jammed halfway between positions. "I can't close it," he said. "You can. The latch is ice behind the hinge. Use the kettle." "What kettle?" "Left of the stove." Only then did Auden notice the stove. It was a squat, cast-iron thing set into an alcove, no larger than a wash bucket, with a pipe that vanished into the ceiling. Its belly held a bed of coals under ash. He knelt and felt heat against his palms, faint but real. A black kettle sat on top, warm enough to steam when he lifted it. "Pour slow over the hinge seam," Maura said. "Not on the chain. Chain will freeze tighter when the water cools." He poured. Steam rose, smelling of iron and minerals. The hinge crackled. He pulled the lever. It moved an inch, then stopped. "Again," Maura said. He poured again. The lever shifted. The iron door dropped halfway with a hard clap, then caught on something below. "There's ice packed under the lip," Maura said. "Take the flat bar. Break toward the chute, not toward your feet." Auden got the bar. The cold from the gap bit his wrists. He chipped at the ice until his hands ached. The chunks fell into the chute and rattled away. When he pulled the lever a third time, the door slammed shut. The draft died so suddenly the candle flame stood upright. The chamber seemed to draw itself close around them. Maura exhaled. "That buys us an hour, maybe less." An hour for what? For the rest of what broke. Auden laughed then. He could not help it. The sound came out dry and too loud, bouncing off the low ceiling. Maura looked at him. "You came down into a railway's frozen stomach at midnight. Did you expect one simple problem?" "I expected nothing," Auden said. "That's usually safer." "Not here." She reached for the wool wrap he had brought, wound it around her leg with shaking hands, and tied it below the knee. "Here, nothing is what gets people killed." The candle burned lower. Above them, faintly, the broken tracks ticked in the cold. Maura pointed to the row of glass tubes. "Read the blue tube. Number on the silver mark." Auden went to the rack. The blue liquid had sunk below a painted line. The number beside it was 12. 12, he said. "Too low. The sill pockets are freezing. The broken rail you stood on is only the top rib. Under it are timber boxes the line floats on. When the cold drops fast, The boxes contract, the hill squeezes, and the whole shelf tilts. It has relief dogs that let it move in small bites. If the dogs are frozen open, it moves once. Hard. What happens if it moves hard? Maura shifted her injured leg and looked past him at the ceiling. You heard that water pipe under the road on your way up? I heard nothing. Then listen better when you go back. It feeds half of East Glaive before dawn. If the cut goes, the pipe cracks, the road drops, and anyone driving the grade at first shift meets a hole where their headlights expected earth. Auden thought of people with houses turning faucets in warm kitchens. He thought of the depot clerk's clean keys. He thought of the woman lifting her purse. He hated the small, obedient part of himself that still imagined them thirsty and frightened, and felt the hook of it. Call someone, he said. Maura nodded toward the speaking cone. That pipe goes to the rail goes to Snow. No phone down here. My radio fell through the grate when the brace went. If you can climb out and run to the fire hall. But by the time you convince a night dispatcher that an abandoned switchback has a thermal station under it, and that Maura Kell is not drunk in a ditch, the dogs may already be open. So what do you want me to do? Help me close them. You just said you can't walk. I said my leg was caught. It isn't caught now. She gripped the beam and tried to stand. Her face went colorless. She sat again, hard. I can think. You can move. Auden looked at the tools, the tubes, the levers, the low roof, the strange order of the place. He had survived by leaving before other people's disasters attached themselves to him. He knew how to vanish, how to say he had not seen, how to make his face blank when a shop owner asked about missing bread he had not taken, but would have taken if he could. Survival was often a narrow door, and responsibility was the hand that tried to close it. From somewhere above, beyond stone and ties, came a faint clatter. Maura's eyes sharpened. Did you hear that? Auden nodded. Not the shelf. That's outside. Another clatter, metal against metal. Then a low voice in the night above them, muffled by the hatch and the rails. Maura blew out the candle in the tin with 2 fingers. Darkness swallowed the room except for the red seam in the stove. Auden crouched without being told. The silence above became populated. Boots on frozen ballast, brush breaking, a man whispering a curse. Scrappers came back, Maura breathed. Auden's stomach tightened. Trouble had found the hatch after all. They'll take pins, Maura whispered. They won't know what they're taking. Auden moved toward the ladder. Maura caught his sleeve. No hero work. I wasn't going to be a hero. Good. Heroes make noise. We need a thief. He looked at her. She pointed to the cabinet's lowest drawer. There's black cloth, chalk, and a 3-foot length of chain. Bring them. And close the stove shutter halfway. We don't want light through the seams. Auden moved in the dark by touch. His fingers found the drawer pull, the cloth, the chain, a nub of chalk. Above, the hatch ring scraped. The men had found it. The hatch did not open at once. The latch Maura had told Auden to slide had fallen back into place when he closed it. And whoever knelt above them did not understand old hardware. A bar scraped across the ring. A boot shifted on the painted white tie. The whole ceiling answered with a dry, warning creak. Maura put 1 finger to her lips, then pointed to the speaking cone. Auden crouched near the ladder, his heart beating high in his throat. He had hidden from police, shopkeepers, angry men, and boys with nothing to do after dark. But he had never hidden inside a machine while strangers stood on the lid of it. A narrow strip of moonlight opened when the hatch lifted half an inch. A man grunted. Another whispered, "Warm air. Told you there was something." "Copper," said the first. Maura leaned toward the cone and spoke softly. The pipe carried her words up into the rail above them and change them into a hollow warning. Wait on white tie. Drop follows. The men froze. Auden could feel it through the ladder. The hatch gap stayed open, silver and still. What was that? The rail talked. Don't be stupid. Then you stand on it. No one stood on it. A boot scraped backward. Ballast scattered. One of the men spat a curse, and then both of them moved away through the brush, fast enough to break branches. Auden waited until the last sound thinned. Mora let her head rest against the beam. They will come back when shame turns into anger. We need the shelf safer before then. You just made the rail talk. The rail always talks. People rarely like the translation. She sent him first into the north crawl, where relief dogs held the floating sills from shifting all at once. He tied canvas sleeves over his arms and pushed a caged lamp ahead of him through cedar boards that smelled of mice, cold sap, and dust older than his own memory. The crawl forced him flat. Numbers burned into the wood past one by one before his eyes. When it widened, iron rods crossed the little chamber like the strings of an instrument no one played for music. Frost had locked 3 of the toothed dogs open. Use graphite, not oil, Mora called from the main room. Oil turns traitor in Frost. He found the coffin-shaped tin because she had described it exactly. He blackened the pivots with the rag, breathed against a tongue of ice, worked it loose with a bone pick, and tapped each dog until it dropped. The last one snapped so close to his knuckles that he understood why Mora spoke of machinery as if it had moods. The rod settled in small increments. Nothing dramatic happened. No wall opened. No secret treasure shone. A hidden danger simply became less immediate, which Auden suspected was what most real rescues looked like. When he crawled back, the blue tube had risen from 12 to 14. Still low, Mora said. Of course it is. She almost smiled. Now, the tempering loop. The loop was fed by the squat iron stove set into the stone. Behind it, warm water moved through pipes under the sill pockets, not by a pump, but by the patient difference between hot and cold. One pipe was warm. The return was dead cold. Auden lifted the brass floor cover with a hook and stared into a square black pit. A perforated basket sat below the water, packed with mineral scale, rust, and the curled body of a dead snake. I hate this place, he said. You're allowed. He hooked the basket out, cleaned every hole with a pick and stiff brush, and lowered it back without dropping it. For half a minute, nothing changed. Then the return pipe ticked once. It ticked again. A soft knock moved behind the stove, then found a rhythm as steady as a cautious pulse. The chamber seemed to loosen around them. The blue tube crept to 16. Mora wrapped her injured leg tighter and pointed upward. The upper vein is open. It thinks the snow load is high and is bleeding heat out of the shelf. The scrappers took pins from the guide. You'll have to reset it from outside. Auden looked at the ladder. Those men are outside. Likely lower now. They'll search for easier iron. That's not comforting. No, it's useful. She gave him a key to the switch box and told him to follow the spur along the cut, count 3 white ties after the bent rail, and find the ladder behind spruce. Do not stand under the vein when it releases. People do foolish things when looking up. Auden climbed into moonlight with the little crowbar inside his coat. The cold hit him so cleanly, it felt like being struck with glass. The forest had gone still. The scrappers' prints crossed the snow and vanished toward the service road below. He followed the spur by touch, one hand on the limestone wall, one foot testing before the other, until he found the hidden ladder. At the top, the world widened. The pass lay black against a sky crowded with stars. Below, Glaive Junction glimmered with the indifferent amber of people asleep under roofs. The vein squatted on a small roof over a vertical shaft, its tail frozen at an angle, its arm hanging from empty holes. Auden broke the ice with the crowbar. He set one spare pin, failed twice with the second, warmed it in his mouth, rubbed it with graphite, and pushed until it slid through. Deep inside the rock, a vent door closed with a muffled clap. A flashlight snapped on far below. "Hey!" a man shouted. "Up there!" Auden dropped flat. The beam scraped the roof, missed him, returned. He slid backward, caught the ladder, and climbed down with bark tearing at his coat. A second voice rose from the road. "That's the kid from the hatch!" He ran. The old grade threw every hidden hole at him. He skidded at the bent rail, slammed one knee on frozen ballast, and reached the hatch with voices moving uphill behind him. He got inside, dragged the hatch down, and slid the latch just as a hand struck the iron ring above. The first blow against the hatch made Mora's candle jump. "Blue tube," she said. Auden bent over the rack, panting so hard he could barely read. 17. Rising? He watched. The liquid trembled, then climbed a hair. A second blow struck the hatch, then another. The men cursed. One of them kicked the white tie, and the ceiling answered with a creak that silenced him. They did not break through. After a minute, their boots moved away. "They're going lower," Mora said. "How do you know?" "There's easier metal under the road. Hanger rods. If they pull the wrong one, the service walk drops, and the pipe brackets go with it. Can we stop them? We can warn the road crew through the pipe tap if we reach the low walk." "You can't walk." "No, you can." The low walk began behind a small south door and dropped through 21 stone steps. Mora made him repeat the number twice. "If you count 20, you missed ice. If you count 22, something new has broken." He took the caged lamp, the spare pins, and the flattened spoon he still carried, because it had belonged to him before the night had taken everything else for tools. The low walk smelled of iron and distance. He counted under his breath, found the hidden icy step at 17, and came into the underbridge gallery. The broken trestle was above him, not as ruin, but as a skeleton of work. Stone piers climbed out of darkness. Timber braces crossed overhead, black with creosote. A narrow grated walk hung from iron rods under the old track bed, and beyond its railing, the road dropped 30 feet below, pale under moon frost. The water pipe Mora had mentioned ran along the cut on brackets, thick and dark, giving off a deep tremor Auden felt in his teeth. At the far end, 2 flashlights moved. One man was prying at a rod. The other held bolt cutters and laughed under his breath. "This one's bronze." "It's holding the walk," said the first. "Everything holds something until it pays." Auden killed his lamp and crouched behind a brace. He found the pipe tap by touch, a hinged metal cup on the water pipe, a striker on a chain, and a plate with instructions. 3 hard for watch, 5 hard for break. Wait between sets. He struck 3 times. The sound vanished into moving water. Nothing happened. He struck 3 again, then 5 once more. The pipe took the blows away from him. At first, there was only vibration. Then, from far down the road toward town, a short horn answered. A maintenance horn, not a car. Someone had heard. The scrappers heard too. The man with the cutter swung his light across the gallery. "Who's there?" Auden threw a chunk of ice past them into the road. It shattered behind their truck. Both lights turned. He used the seconds to move along the grating toward the rod they had loosened. A pin lay on the floor, greasy and cold. Above it, the hanger plate knocked once. Then it knocked twice. The whole gallery shifted sideways. The man with the cutters grabbed the railing and went quiet. His partner shouted from below. Auden remembered Mora's rule. Pairs meant, "Get off." But the removed pin was under his hand, and the empty hole swung in and out of line above him. If he ran, The gallery might tear loose before the road crew arrived. If he stayed, he might go down with it. He got on his knees. "Hold the railing," he told the man. The man stared at him. What? Hold it, or fall. Fear made the man obedient. Auden caught the swinging rod with both hands. It pulled him forward so hard his shoulder burned. The hole passed once, twice. On the third pass, he shoved the pin through. It stuck halfway. He hammered it with the bowl of his spoon until the cheap metal flattened and the pin drove home. The pair knocking stopped. Lights appeared on the road bend. A county truck came fast, then braked hard under the trestle. Men in yellow coats jumped out. The scrappers ran toward their pickup, abandoning the cutters. The truck fishtailed away along the service road, but one of the yellow-coated men had already read the license plate aloud into a radio. "Who's on the walk?" another shouted. Auden leaned against the railing, shaking too hard to stand straight. "Maura Kell is hurt under the switchback. Don't cut anything. Don't step on the white tie. The shelf is still cold." The man stared up at him, as if each sentence were a separate language. Then an older worker climbed from the truck with a white mustache and no helmet, only a wool cap pulled low. He looked at the trestle, the pipe tap, the removed cutters, and the old rods. When he spoke, his voice changed the air because it carried recognition. "Harrow Weather Shelf," he said. "I thought that was sealed." "It isn't," Auden said. The older worker nodded once. "Then nobody touches iron until she tells us what it does." His name was Noreen Ash, though Auden did not learn until later that Noreen had been named after an ant and had spent 67 years correcting people who expected the name to belong to someone else. For the moment, he was simply the first adult that night who did not argue with the evidence in front of him. He sent one worker to the hatch with a medical kit, another to set road flares far below the cut, and a third to call the water district. He himself climbed to the gallery, moved slowly, and checked the pin Auden had hammered in. "Bad fit," he said. It was moving. Bad fit that saved us then. He looked at the spoon in Auden's hand. "You attached to that?" "It was all I had." "Then keep it. Some tools retire after one honest job." They reached Maura through the upper hatch after Noreen shouted down, and she shouted back a string of instructions before allowing anyone to descend. The yellow-coated workers obeyed her. Auden noticed that. They did not obey kindly or sentimentally. They obeyed the way people obey someone who knows where the load is. They splinted her leg on the floor of the chamber using canvas pads and a straight strip from the broken brace. She refused pain medicine until the blue tube reached 18. Noreen read it himself and said, 18 and a quarter. "Check the return knock," Morris said. "It's moving." "East chill?" "Closed." "Dog rack?" Noreen glanced at Auden. "Ask him." Auden, filthy with graphite, soot, rust, and fear, said, 4 dogs dropped. One tried to take my hand." Maura's eyes softened for less than a second. That means he did it right. Only then did she let them lift her. Auden sat on an overturned crate near the stove with his bag under his feet, so no one would sweep it away as trash. A paramedic had wrapped a foil blanket around his shoulders. The blanket made tiny thunder whenever he moved. Someone gave him coffee with too much sugar. He drank it anyway. He expected, once Maura had gone to the hospital and the adults filled the chamber with adult voices, to become invisible again. Instead, Maura called from the stretcher before they carried her up. "Auden." He stood because her voice made standing seem required. "In the cabinet," she said. "Top shelf, back left. Bring the green ledger." His chest tightened. "Is it a diary?" "No. Diaries are for feelings people expect paper to forgive. This is a workbook." He brought it. The cover was oilcloth, the corners repaired with brass. Inside were pages ruled by hand, dates, temperatures, wind direction, vent settings, water knock readings, pin replacements, names of whoever had checked the shelf. The handwriting changed over decades. Some lines were neat, some hurried, some barely literate, but exact in numbers. One page held a pasted photograph of a group of workers standing under the trestle in winter, faces pale from flash powder, hands black with grease, men, women, 2 boys younger than Auden, a girl holding a kettle. Under the photograph, someone had written, "We held the hill through the black January, when the company went below and the families stayed above." Maura tapped a blank line near the end of the book. "Write what you did." Auden looked at the pencil tied to the spine. "I didn't do the whole thing." "No one ever does the whole thing. That is why the lines keep going." He wrote slowly because his fingers were swollen and because he wanted the words to fit inside the rule. Reset upper vein pins, cleared north dog rack, cleared return basket, called road tap, replaced hanger pin with spoon strike. He paused before signing. His name looked too large when he wrote it. Auden Finch. Maura read it and nodded. Now it happened where the place can remember. The day opened pale over Glaive Junction. From above the hatch, Auden saw the broken tracks in honest light for the first time. They were worse than they had seemed at midnight, and less dead. White paint marked safe ties. Small vents hid between stones. The switch stand box held not relics, but spares. The bent rails were not only damage, they were warnings left in iron for anyone who knew how to read them. Auden could have left during any of this. No one locked the door. No one watched him closely after breakfast. A volunteer brought sandwiches and set a box of them near the stove. Auden took one, then another for later, then felt the old reflex to vanish before gratitude became debt. He walked up the ladder with his bag on his shoulder and stood beside the broken tracks in the weak sun. The town lay below. Smoke rose from chimneys. The depot would be open. The clerk with the keys would be selling tickets and coffee. A boy could become nobody again very easily. Nobody was light. Nobody owed no explanations. Nobody did not have to learn the names of pipes, vents, rods, and people who would notice if he failed to return. Under his foot, the white tie held firm because he had helped it hold. Noreen came up behind him and held out a small canvas pouch with dry socks, gloves, and food that would not freeze into a brick. He did not call it charity. He called it field issue, because Auden had worked there before anyone had named him a worker. Maura, from the hospital by radio, had already ordered him to stay near the shelf until her leg worked. Not because she was kind, she said, but because he was light enough for the crawls and had not yet ruined the system. The first time Auden slept in the pump shed, he lay awake until nearly dawn, unable to trust a door that locked from the inside. The shed smelled of rubber boots, coffee, and warm dust. There was a cot with 2 blankets. No one took his bag. No one shook him awake with a command to move along. Wind pressed at the walls and failed to enter. He did not become fixed. People were not broken rails that could be pinned once and trusted forever. Some mornings, he woke certain he should leave before anyone changed their mind. Some afternoons, a careless word from a worker sent him outside with his fists in his pockets and the old blankness over his face. Maura never chased him. She only left tasks where he would find them. Check the blue tube at 6, sweep graphite from the dog rack floor, mark the vein pins with chalk, listen at the road tap after first water draw. Work did not heal him in the way stories like to promise. It gave his fear edges. It put names on sounds. It turned below from a place that called out of darkness into a place he could enter with a lamp, a key, and instructions written by hands that had also been cold. When the next hard change came, a rain that froze as soon as it touched iron, Auden took the low walk with the lamp shielded in his coat. A hanger bracket had iced behind its plate. It had not begun knocking in pairs yet. He chipped it clear, warmed the pin with a kettle, set it back into line, and returned with his sleeves stiff and his face calm in a way that surprised even him. Mora read the blue tube, saw it holding at 18, and said, "Write it." He did. Near midnight, when the rain hardened into bright pellets against the hatch, Auden climbed to the grade and stood by the broken tracks. The town below was blurred by ice, but its lights remained. The old rails curved into darkness, bent and severed, no longer pretending to be a route for trains. They were something else now. Marks above a hidden system of weight, heat, water, and memory. A sound came from below, faint through the speaking pipe. "Auden," Mora called. "Quit freezing dramatically and close the hatch." He looked down at the iron ring, at the thin vapor rising around it, at his gloved hands resting where his bare hands had burned on that first night. He thought of the boy who had followed broken tracks because every proper door had been closed. He did not pity that boy exactly. Pity felt too small. He had been cold, suspicious, hungry, and right to be all three. But he had also heard someone call from below and had answered. That answer had not saved him all at once. It had simply opened a hatch. Auden climbed down, shut the iron lid over the weather, slid the latch into place, and descended toward the glow of the stove, the knock of the return pipe, and the next line waiting in the book.